World War I recruiters be like, yeah, he looks 18. Now here's his shotgun, get in the trench. Now to be honest, I feel like this meme is really specifically talking about European countries. Well, actually Germany. It's really a lot probably Germany. However, I feel like so many Americans have a grandpa that lied about his age so he could join the military at like 16 or 17. That's what my grandpa did. Meme's also talking about World War I, but it definitely happened in World War II, in the Vietnam War. It still happens today. We're still putting children on the front line. If the kids love cave exploring in Minecraft so much, you might as well put them in a Vietnamese tunnel and have them search for enemy soldiers. Yeah, this was definitely not a unique event during the World Wars. It happens all the time in world history, and it's probably just going to continue to happen. Let's be real. Well, in some parts of the world. I doubt it's going to happen in the US. I think you're safe if you're in the US or the West. Bro, look at this exactly. My top comment, no joke, my great-grandfather entered the war at 15. I just wonder what I would have done. I feel like I was stupid enough to have maybe tried something like this if I was 17 during World War II. Nah, they're not child soldiers. He said he was 18. Never trust anyone saying that they're... I don't want to justify or belittle the seriousness of child soldiers, but if I'm growing up in Kansas at 15 years old and it's 100 years ago, bro, send me the front lines. Like, this is so boring out here. Is that controversial to say? I feel like a lot of people would think that way. Do you happen to be a massive fangirl of Egypt, Somalia, or Botswana? I'm sure I don't actually know how many of you would be a massive fangirl of these countries, but if you are by any chance, head over to makeshift.com. We do have some country balls for sale. I'm actually slowly becoming a fangirl, especially of Botswana. I'm liking Botswana the more because I make the plushie, then I start doing a lot more research to promote them and things like that. I'm like, damn, I need to travel this place. Maybe for the next travel trip. Seems like a very fun place, but again, yeah, these places will be gone forever very soon, so use that link down below. That way there's no tears when they're gone. This onion won't make me cry, says an optimistic soldier. World War I lasted way longer than you thought. Okay, technically, no, it did not. But you could maybe argue this point. I won't believe you, but by definition, World War I starts in 1914, ends in 1918. That's 4 years. It's a pretty solid end date that you can't really argue because it was an actual signed armistice between Germany and the Allies. However, that is not to say they had stopped all war at that time. It was just the World War aspect. That part was over. There was plenty more conflict to come, though. And when I say plenty, I mean plenty. There were so many little individual battles happening all around the continent. Most notably was probably the ongoing Russian Civil War that was happening, because obviously that drags in states that were formerly a part of that Russian Empire, like Finland, the Baltic states, Poland, who had to fight for their freedom and successfully win, I might add. The downfall of Austria. Hungary kept on fighting. Oh yeah, and then the end of the Ottoman Empire. The Turkish War for Independence lasted from 1919, right after World War I ends, to 1923. That's a whole additional 4 years. Have you ever seen maps of Europe January 1st, 1919? This is about a month and a half after World War I ends. It is absolute chaos. In fact, it kind of looks like a shitty alternative history map. If I wasn't looking and paying attention, I'd be like, who made this stupid thing? My goodness, get this man away from the computer. Yeah, so if this onion here is talking in more of a metaphorical way, then I guess I do kind of agree that metaphorically, the resulting chaos and fallout continues to happen longer than you might thought. PhD and university lecturer weighs in, yeah, they are considered successor conflicts, but not a part of the overall world war part of the World War I. It's kind of a continental war, and they're all separately fighting each other. You know, now that we're talking about this topic, this just makes me think that there was a lot of conflict overall happening in the early part of the 20th century, even before World War I. They call these the prequel wars to the Great War. The Balkan Wars, the First Balkan War, the Second Balkan War. Yeah, there we go. I thought they were going to forget this. The Italian-Turkish War that took place like 2 years before 1914. Bosnian Crisis, the Second Moroccan Crisis. You also have the Russo-Japanese War, the Spanish-American War that happens even before that. They're probably not going to talk about that one. This time was just extremely volatile for the world as a whole. Almost like a second 30 Years' War, right? Jesus didn't die on the cross, says Japan. What? Responds the Papal States. Yeah, you know, like his brother Ishuriki. His brother, Ishuriki, took his place on the cross while Jesus traveled across Siberia to Mutsu province. Once in Japan, he alleged to have changed his name to Tori Tora Dati Kuku, and then he became a nice rice farmer. Jesse, what the frick are you talking about? I love when Asian countries add a little bit of extra lore to my Christianity. If I had a nickel for every time that happened, to be honest, I think it happened multiple times, but I know for sure 2 examples. I'd have 2 nickels because Japan and then China, when they randomly said that one Chinese dude said he was the brother of Jesus Christ. I love my Asian fanfics. And apparently you can go visit his tomb in Japan. I do like the subtlety of it and stuff. This Jesus fled via Siberia and Alaska to this northern part of Japan. He also supposedly had 3 daughters with the lady up there. So we have Japanese Jesus offspring somewhere living, probably in Japan. Certainly not as crazy as a story as the Taipei Rebellion when I had mentioned earlier there's some Chinese dude that claimed to be the brother of Jesus Christ. Basically, imagine that, then fast forward, and then millions are dead. That fast. Total 200 to 30 million. Okay, so China took this lore very, very seriously. Meanwhile, Japan, meh. They was chilling, I guess. East Asians always have the wildest interpretations of Christianity. This is what I'm saying. I'm sure Korea's got a story too. I just feel it. Christians saying Jesus died on the cross. Muslims saying Jesus ascended to heaven. Chinese saying his brother didn't die on the cross and he traveled to China and begun the Taipei Rebellion. Then here's the Japanese. His brother Ishiriki took his place on the cross while Jesus traveled to Japan and became a rice farmer. But none of those can hold a candle to the Mormons, who actually said that he moved to America, wherein he lived with the Native Americans. Upon his death, his body was dismembered and scattered, but it said that if it were to be assembled back once more, it would repel bad luck. Is that really? I don't think that's okay. So it turns out you don't need to be from East Asia to have some cool extra Jesus lore, I guess. You can literally just be from the U.S. state of Utah. I do like Japan and China's exploration of the possibility of Jesus having a brother, though. That's interesting. Never thought about that, I'm not gonna lie. Most of these aren't correct, that's what I thought, but some of them are funnier ideas than what those groups actually believed and easier to grasp, if anything. In India, also, there is a belief that Jesus' tomb in Kashmir, if I'm not wrong. Hell yeah, India. I can't believe I forgot to mention you. Of course you got a cool story like this. Still wild that Mormonism is canon to JoJo. You know, I think actually the Koreans got it right after all. I don't know the details to it. They just believe that Jesus was absolutely ripped. Jesus took trend, possibly. Genghis Khan dying to the Black Plague has the exact same energy as when the villain in the next arc kills the villain from the previous arc to establish that they're a bigger threat. Who wrote this chapter in history? It was absolutely fire. Genghis absolutely was the biggest threat to humanity 1 century before, then bam, next season comes, everyone's dying from the plague. We really gotta give some credit to those alien show producers up there watching us down here. Like literally on the dot, 1346, you gotta keep us humans entertained. Now the truth is, historically, we still don't know exactly how Genghis Khan died all the way back in 1227, but remember, we also don't know exactly when the bubonic plague or the Black Plague officially started, and we don't have the data. We know when it was at its peak. We know when it was killing the most people. Recent historical medical analysis suggests that Genghis Khan likely died of the bubonic plague in 1227. This is based off prevalence of the disease in his army and the recorded symptoms of fever and rapid death. That would also insinuate that it was really the Genghis military, the Mongolian military, that was spreading it all around the world in those very, very early days. That would be quite the messed up twist if you think about it, but yeah. When we talk about the bubonic plague or the Black Death, we tend to just think the 1300s as if it only existed in that small window of time. I hate to inform you of this, but the bubonic plague still exists today. There's always articles still releasing like, oh, this American just got the bubonic plague. Yeah, somebody contracted it from my home state of California. Bro, I am so cooked. So with that in mind, I mean, Genghis could have had it 100 years before it was popular. He had it before it was cool. Yeah, but again, just a reminder, Khan was 80 or something. Well, was he really 80? But yeah, he could have died from a lot of things. He was 65. And remember the Mongolian Empire, that thing still chugged along even after his death. Give us all your stuff, or else. Okay, fine, responds Qing China. Give us all your stuff, or no, they respond. Absolutely brutal. The Chinese giving territory to places like the British and the Japanese and the Germans and the Russians, but not to the Italians. They might be weak, but they're not that weak. Bro, that's actually crazy. That's so disrespectful. It's funny because, yeah, most notably missing from this very famous propaganda poster, there is no Italians. This is Queen Victoria, this is the Prussians, this is Russia, Japan, is this America or is that, I think that's America, is that France? I don't know. Maybe we had our own pie, it just wasn't quite as big. But yeah, this is literally what was going on, just the European powers carving up this massive country. There were small concessions over time, but yes, Russia grabbed things, Japan took Taiwan, the British famously got Hong Kong. Bro, even the Portuguese took something, that's crazy. Macau has a little bit more of a complicated story, but Portugal took something, but not Italy. Portugal looking at Italy being like, come on, little bro, you really think you're a great power? It is important to note that many of these territories were overall lost after the fall of the Qing dynasty, though. The meme specifically refers to the ultimatum that Italy gave to the Chinese government demanding this specific bay, which it was obviously denied by the Empress. She said not a single piece of land will be given to the Italians? That's wow. And I mean, it wasn't even like they were asking for that much, but jeez. The Chinese knew not to ally to the Italians during the World Wars, I guess. I mean, they were kind of on the same side in World War I, but yeah, I guess they didn't bring their navy. They just asked for it without any sort of threat involved. Your Roman ancestors were seen as equal powers. You are a mockery of your ancestors. Yeah, this is really the Chinese approaching the height of their whole century of humiliation. Like during this moment, and then obviously the following decade or two or three, they're really just facing so many L's. Like it's very embarrassing for them, because then this is gonna collapse, and there's gonna be a bunch of different warlords. It's gonna get crazy. Kinda interesting to think about, if Italy did in fact get something from China, they probably would have kept it until World War II, more than likely, and then maybe the Japanese and the Italians fight side by side in the Chinese front. That's quite the thought right there. Romanian kids watching his dictator get gunned down on live TV. You know, I knew this happened. I forgot that the kids were probably watching. Yeah, Romania did not like this communist leader. I mean, to say the least, damn. And honestly, if you ask those kids that watched this live back in 1989, they'll probably say he deserved it. This man went to India back in 1969. Obviously, he was part of the communist world, so he was meeting people like Kim Il-sung, the father of North Korea. I mean, I guess he was even meeting other U.S. presidents, too. He was in charge for quite some time, which is probably why so many people didn't like him. You kind of can't be around for that long without having probably like a brutal demise. Look at Libya's Gaddafi. In elementary school, my Hungarian literature teacher was actually from Transylvania and grew up in the dictatorship. According to her, she was literally cheering as he was shot. He really got along with everyone except Romanians. That's kind of an important factor. You kind of want the people from your nation to like you the most. Everyone else actually doesn't matter at all. All the other world leaders, who cares about them? It wasn't just him, it was his wife too. People do not like them. Reading about Russian/former Soviet demographics. Oh boy. Why is this ethnic minority in such high concentrations in this random desolate place? Look up ethnic minorities history in Russia, then it's just a picture of Stalin. Repeat, again. I've said this many times before on this channel, the Soviet Union was an incredibly diverse place. We don't really think that. We used to think, well, I think it's better now, it's getting better, but we used to think the Soviet Union was just consistent of only Russians. There was so much more ethnic groups than just Russians in the Soviet Union. But then when you talk about specifically ethnic minorities, especially some small ones, because you can find some really small, I'm not even talking about the big ones, like the Ukrainians or the Baltics, you know, Estonia, Finland. I mean, I am thinking about the Jewish oblast they have over here of like just the Jews. But yes, it gets absolutely wild. You can only really find the actual Russians, well, in the big cities, Moscow, St. Petersburg. You get the Kazakhs and the Tartars all through Central Asia, the Turkmen, bunch of things randomly sprinkled in Siberia, of course. I wonder what happened there. I mean, part of this is just due to the makeup of this land. I mean, we were just talking about the Mongolian Empire, how they spread it across, and then obviously after Genghis' death and after the death of that empire, there was still plenty of Hordic nations all around. But yeah, Stalin was a very paranoid man, if we didn't discuss that before. So these ethnic minorities could have caused him a lot of problems, at least in his head. Sometimes it's better just to send them out to the middle of nowhere. Sometimes even at a gulag. And this is even talking about the Volga Germans. If you can imagine, there's a massive benefit to promote the Russian ethnicity than everyone else. In fact, you kind of want to lower minority ethnicities if you are Stalin leading the Soviet Union at this time. And by lower, well, that you can use your imagination how you could possibly lower a certain ethnic group's population. I wonder. Sometimes it's simple as just not feeding them. You have to admit, Stalin was a great cleaner, a population cleaner. A lot of different people groups were just sent down to Soviet Kazakhstan at the time too. That helps explain why like Kazakhstan has so much diversity, so much genetic diversity. If you've seen Kazakhstani people, they're beautiful. Besides Borat, remember Borat is not actually from Kazakhstan. That's an actor from the British Isles, so a little different. I wonder why Kim is such a popular surname in Kazakhstan. Isn't it Korean? Yeah. Again, just gonna leave off with Egypt, Somalia, and Botswana. We didn't have a chance to really talk about them too much in these history memes. Egypt always tends to come up with at least ancient history. Maybe we're gonna have to look up specific history memes for Botswana and Somalia. I mean, I could think of a couple of different things those countries have been through in the past, but makeship.com. And a big thanks to my patrons this month. Drew's abandoned son from Alabama. Petition for Drew to make Hoi 4 ASMR Tingles version 2. Nolan. Alexander the Terrible. Nord Tyrol. Miglu the Goat. King Bear Hayes. Connor Pavlik. Frederick Tiblin. Carmel. Drew's Argentinian Trust Fund. Rip Grandpa. Douchebag. Luxembourg Lover. And Tambrin.